Just testing whether the stream is going on. I don't know. It's taking a bit of a long time this morning for it to come up. But yeah, it does appear to be working. This is all a bit strange in the morning. Sometimes it takes a bit slower to come on. But happy coding. Hello, coders. I hope you're all having a good week. It is 7:30 British summertime here in the UK, 7:30 a.m. The stream, before I actually do any work today, this is the How to Code Well PHP, MySQL and Docker stream that will teach or demonstrate the build of the invoice application that I'm using for the FreeCodeCamp course that I will be teaching eventually once I get this invoicing application done. The course will teach object-oriented programming. And I'm using this invoicing application as a mechanism to teach all of those, the intricacies of object-oriented code. Yeah, we've done a lot of work around the management of data recently. And today I thought that it would be beneficial if we just drew a line into the sand with some of the stuff that we were doing in terms of the mapping and the managers and all of that other good jazz, and just think about how we are going to test the database. Because last stream we got to a point where we were actually saving data through PDO. And of course that was manipulating the database. And I was thinking, this is now moving into waters where we really should be thinking about testing more. And last stream, unfortunately, I didn't do any test-driven development. And I kind of want to jump back onto that train a little bit. And I was thinking about, just testing databases in general is tricky. It is a tricky piece of thing to do. Luckily, though, there's tools out there that we can use, that we are using, that will help us to do so. One being Docker, the other one being Codeception. So what I would like to achieve in this stream is I would like to achieve a new database. We're going to create a new database specifically for testing, one which we can tear up and tear down, tear down and tear up. And we're going to create that in Docker, and we're going to use Codeception to run some tests. So we're going to create a new database today, a new MySQL database, and then we can run tests from that without interfering with the quote-unquote development production database, whatever you want to call it. So I think that's probably a good way to go. Now, I do understand, if we go back to the code here, I do understand that there is an awful lot of code that hasn't been committed. Well, I committed that this morning, but it was kind of in a weird state. So I just pushed it all up this morning. I removed the stuff in the index to actually save the status I think we were dealing with. So I removed that. I also removed the mapper because I wasn't very happy with how that sort of panned out. So that's where we're at. We're now at a nice sort of clean-ish sort of code base again, and we can further on this project. I still, of course, have the hydrators. I still, of course, have the managers and the repositories and so forth. And I think in the status manager here, there's still the save routine. So that's still in play. But really what we want to achieve is a mechanism of actually testing this save routine here. And of course, this is going to insert a record here, or it's going to update a record. But of course, we can't do that on our development database, because we would be manipulating that and we would be getting ourselves into some strange waters down the road when we want to sort of actually work through the sort of forms and stuff where we've got different statuses than we expect. We do have in our MySQL folder here, we do have our rebuild.sql, which will rebuild the SQL. This is something we did a few weeks back, I think, or last week. So that will drop the database if it exists, which is app database, invoice app, sorry, and then it will run through all of these schemas, and it will also insert some data. So this is sort of setting up the fixtures, if you will, the referential data of this invoicing application. But we want to be able to test the database. We want to be able to test our code that touches upon the database, more so in either an integration sort of acceptance sort of test type thing. And we don't want to do we don't want to muddy up the database after the tests have ran, which is why we need to do all of this stuff to actually build a new database and stuff. Without Docker, this would have been a little bit more tricky, but with Docker, what we could do is we could just create our new container for testing that database, which is what we will be doing now, I think. I'm also going to talk through if I go back to the browser here, so these are the issues. This is what I want to achieve today: create the test database. This should be done in a separate Docker container. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. But I want to just talk through how we actually go about this from the Codeception perspective here. So we set up the database as we've done before, but we can actually pass in things like dump, populate, and cleanup. These are mechanisms that we can use to dump the database, populate the database with a dump, and we can clean up the tests before every test as well. So we're going to be faffing about with that as well today, and we can set these up like you can see up here. Okay, so the first thing we need to achieve then is to have a separate testing environment, a testing database, a separate container. That's the first thing we need to do. So we're going to go back to the code. Actually, let's just double check the 42. That's the ID. So we're going to go back to the code here, and we're going to just do a checkout of 42. So let's just, not in here, in there, in the terminal, git status. Okay, that's cool. So let's do a git branch. Let's just make sure I'm on the master branch. So I'm just going to do a git checkout -b, and this is going to be the 42 branch, 42. So this is test db container. Okay. So now we can actually start playing around with this. So I'm just going to bring this back out like that. What we need to do is we need to pretty much copy this and paste that down here. It's still obviously going to be in the same network, but that's fine. We're going to call this db_test. And what we're going to do, is we're going to fill out all of these things. So we're still going to have the credentials. That's fine, but this database is going to be MySQL database test, which means that we need to put in the environment variables on the env dist this here. So we can put in MySQL database_test. And we're just going to call this invoice app, and I'm just going to prefix that with test. Okay, so I need to copy that and put this into the standard env, like so. Okay, so that's that bit wired up. Awesome. Notice that we're also using the MySQL_data Docker volume here. That needs to be different, of course, from this one. We could, if we wanted to, share them, but that would be a bad idea. So we're going to go into here. We're just going to grab that MySQL_data, and we're just going to have that data test. Excuse me. And we're going to change that here too. Okay, let's just make a space here just so we've got a little bit of room, just so you can sort of separate it and see there was 2 spaces there, so I'll do the same. Okay, so it's running the same image, that's running the same volume. Well, it's using that volume. okay, we've still got the scripts in here. We'll let's have a look. Let's have a think of that. I'm also going to add here a restart, I think. Start always. Same with this one too, because I think that will bring the containers back up each time. Okay, so that's cool. That's cool. Let's think about the scripts then. So if we go to the SRC, if we go into, sorry, not SRC here. So we have the rebuild.sql. So all of this is going to go into the /scripts directory. I'm wondering if we need to have, because we need to change the names of these things. I'm not sure, I don't know off the top of my head whether or not we can pass environment variables into these things, because that would be quite useful. I'm not entirely sure if we can do that. But a way we could get around this, of course, is by creating a new script in here, and we could call this rebuild_test. And we could just call this, what did I call this? Invoice app test? Test invoice app. There we go. So this is test and test. Whoops. I think also I'm going to prefix this with test rebuild rather than rebuild test, just because it's easier to identify. I think if you're looking at the first word, there's more of an accident to run that rather than this. Okay, and of course we need to use it as well. So this is going to be our sort of dump file, if you will, I think. Yeah. We may not even need to use the whole insertion stuff, but let's just keep that in as at the moment. Wonderful. Okay, so what I'm kind of thinking is in the Codeception config, we would use the test rebuild SQL as a way of rebuilding it on the tests. Okay, that's good. Let's now bring this up. So if we did docker ps, we can see that we have both the containers. At the moment, we have the DB1 and the web one. These are the containers for the application, but obviously we're going to be bringing up a third one. So if we did docker compose, and then we did up -d, and then we're going to put in the build flag as well. And hopefully that will bring that up, and we don't have to rebuild the layers at all, because we're using the cached layers from the previous Docker image, which is great, because now we've essentially got two databases running, and we didn't have to rebuild any servers or anything for this. We were just using the same caches, Docker caches, that the previous MySQL container was using. So if we did docker ps-a, we should now be able to see that we have the DB test running here, which is pretty cool. You know, I mean, I remember when I started programming well, I try and remember. This was a long time ago. And when I started looking at MySQL databases, it would just take yonks for me to bring any of this stuff up. But with Docker, it would be, you know, it's just so easy to do this type stuff. And all we've done is we've altered the database name. Now, one could argue, why don't we just do this in the same container? I get that, but this is just such an easier way of doing it. And also you're completely and utterly isolating that container. This container is only for testing purposes. This container should never touch anything outside of the testing environment. I know that this project will never become production ready, but you know, you got to think of it in that mindset. Okay, so we've got that running. That's pretty cool. Let's just double check though that everything is as expected. I'm going to just do a reverse search, see if I have MySQL. We do. So this should now be DB_test, which we're in. and we should be able to do show databases, and we should have now the test invoice app. Okay, let's do a use test invoice app and have a little look around. I don't think it would be app. Show tables. I think this is going to be completely empty, which it is. So now we need to actually source the scripts, which I think, let me just double check. I did port them across. So let's come out of that and go into bash. So we're going into the test container as bash. In ls, we should see that we have a scripts directory. And in scripts, we should see that we have a rebuild, test rebuild. That's the thing that we've just bind. We've mounted it. We've mounted that into there. Okay, so what we can do then is we're going to come out of this container. We're going to go back into it as root, and we're going to use. Actually, I don't think we even need to use it. We just do source scripts, and then it was test, not rest. It was test underscore rebuild .sql. And there we go. If we did use test invoice app, and then we do show tables, boom, we are where we were before with the other database. So there we go. That's pretty cool. I mean, you could even argue, well, why don't we just do this on the same database and just have prefix all of the tables to be like test underscore? But again, you're not isolating your concerns. I'm only concerned at testing, and I don't even care if this container drops and dies and fades away. You know, this is just what I want to use for testing. So that's why I've done it, and that's why I think Docker for this is really, really cool. Running Docker to test your MySQL databases, or any databases, anything like that is really good because it's very throwaway, and that's what we want to be dealing with. We want more of a throwaway approach to testing databases. Okay. So let's bring this out a little bit. We need to do some tweaking here. With the Codeception stuff. So if we scroll, not there, that's the YAML file, that's not what I'm after, sorry. If we scroll this way, come on, PHP Storm, allow me to scroll, bring that out, there we go. So if we go into, where is it, tests, and if we go into acceptance tests, not acceptance, what I'm looking for, acceptance suite, there we go. Right, we can see that we have all of this stuff. This actually could just be localhost. It doesn't need to be 192.168.9900. So we could do that. Localhost. Well, actually, I'm going to keep it like that just for the second, just because I know that that works. Let's just change this now to invoice to db underscore test. Let's change that to test invoice app. These credentials are all good. Let's run the acceptance test on this database. So let's come out of this. Let's go into the bash container. So that is reverse search. Come on, web. Wonderful, and it is bin, it is code, no it's not, it's vendor, it's bin, it's Codeception, it's run, it's acceptance. Did I have any specific? I could just run them all, I guess. DB status. I have some specific groups and stuff. Homepage. Oh, of course, these are the DB. Well, let's run these DB ones. So this is -G. Whoopsie, in the wrong thing. -G. DB. So let's run all the DBs. So hopefully now, if this works, this will be running against the test container that we've just done, which it is the case, which is cool. So they all work. So that's good. Whew. I was worried then, like it couldn't find the database. If we did hyphen debug, right, we should hopefully be able to get some debug output. If we scroll up here, we should be able to see that it's connecting to here. The database name is test invoice app. Okay, so we're now running the host of DB test. So we've now isolated these tests to that testing container, which is exactly what I want to do, or what I wanted to achieve. So I'm going to reward myself with a cup of tea, and then I'm going to update that commit message, or that issue, and then we're going to be writing some specific tests for the database now in complete isolation from the other database which we're going to be using when we're developing this application. First cup of tea of the day. That is awesome. Wonderful. Okay, I'm pretty chuffed with that. Let's go into come out of the container here. Let's do a git status and have a look at what we've changed. So we've changed the Docker Compose, the .dst, the env. We've added that, and we've added that. One thing I want to do is I want to change the way Codeception handles tests with the database, because I want to tear them down and tear them up. This is something that we haven't done yet. So before I do any commits, I'm going to just tweak that a little bit. So let's take a look at the browser for just a second and have a little read. So this is all set up, that's fine. Path to database dump. Okay, so that's the database dump file. And then we can populate it, whether the dump should be loaded before the test suite is started. Okay, so before the suite is started, we could rebuild the whole thing. That sounds sensible. Then cleanup, whether the dump should be reloaded before every test. So for every single test, it's going to rebuild the whole thing. It's going to run that dump file. Okay. Should I do this? Should I do this? I think I'm going to try. I would like to achieve that. So, okay, let's go back to the code and have a little wander. I pressed the code button so you can see it, but I can't see it. I need to set up my Stream Deck a little bit more intelligently. So it's back in here. We're going to bring this down a little bit. This is the stuff that we want to fiddle with. We're going to paste all of that config in that we were playing with earlier, or we were just looking at earlier. Okay, so this is the crucial part. Tests _ data dump SQL. I'm assuming this path could be anywhere, but the fact that they've got it in tests data in here makes a bit of sense. That essentially is this test rebuild script. So I'm wondering if I could just copy that, paste that in here. We'll leave that in there for now, and then change the path to all of this. This is going to be running obviously from the container, right? It'll be running from the container. So we might have getting ourselves in a bit of hot water with the paths here, because these are running. This is the absolute path from within the container. Yeah. And obviously this is from within the database container, not from the web container. So that's another issue. I'm wondering if we need to... I mean, one solution could be to bring all of the data, all of this into here, and then change the bind mount. I think first of all, though, before I start umming and ahhing and guessing, I think what I'm going to do is just run this and see the error message, because that will help me guide me as to what's going on. Okay, tests, data, and then this is test rebuild.sql. Okay, we're going to hit save. I'm going to, just for clarity's sake, I'm going to do a down and an up just to bring them down. And bring them back up again. I didn't need to put in the build flag, but hey. I'm going to dive into the web as bash, and I'm going to run that acceptance test. That was vendor bin codeception acceptance, and it was -g db. And let's see if, yeah, I can't spell acceptance. Nope, still can't spell it. Visual aid is needed. ACP TANC. Hang on a minute, that's a bit weird. ACC, my brain. ACCEP TANCE. Oh, no, of course it's spelt right. I need to put in run. Here we go. Okay, so the error is command didn't finish properly, blah, 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 uncaught exception. Are you going to give me any more info as to this? Here we go. So it's a bit unready, but syntax error, violation, blah, 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 blah. So this is the sourcing of the scripts cannot be found. Yeah, because it's looking at a different path. Of course, this path, if I did an ls of all of this, then we actually do have MySQL in here. So we could let me have a think. We could change the path. Let's do a cd into MySQL, and then ls. This is in the container, obviously. Let's do a cd of schema. Let's do a pwd. This is p wd. There we go. That's the path on the container. So I'm wondering if we could change that path to be running from here. So we definitely need to go into the schema. That's going to be MySQL. And I'm wondering if we need to jump out of this, if I can do it in a sort of a relative path. So that will jump out of tests or jump out of data. We're now in tests. We need to jump out of tests. We need to go into MySQL. Hang on. What's going on here? That's so we come out 1-2 levels deep, and then we're in MySQL. Yeah, hopefully that should work. Let's try that. We don't need that. 2 levels out and then back in. So that that needs to be replaced. And so that's data. Again, that's in MySQL. That would be like this. Is that correct? Okay, let's see if we can run that again. Oops, sorry, I need to come out of this at all. Nope. Have we? Yeah, so we are using the right part. The paths have changed, which is cool. You have an error that corresponds. Check your manual. That corresponds to MySQL version for the right syntax near source. Maybe it's a problem with source. It's not actually complaining that. Maybe it's not a problem with the path. Maybe it's a problem with just how it's being used. SQL query being executed, all of these things. It's not actually saying that there is an error with the file. It's not saying that the file can't be found. It's just saying that there's a SQL error, SQL syntax error. But I'm just going to double check all of these things. So let's go to CD. Let's go to, where are we? Tests. Let's go to _data ls. Okay, so we're going CD 1 to into MySQL data, and then status. So that's the path is correct. So perhaps Codeception just can't do that, which is annoying, because that kind of scuppers my whole thing. I really wanted that to happen. That does suck. If we did cat, come out that. MySQL schema, and then customer. So yeah, we can access it through that path. Okay, how about this? How about we just dump the database out and put it on here, and not worry too much about rebuilding all of this stuff? I think that's probably a good idea. So what I'm going to do is create a SQL dump of the database as it stands, bung it in here, and that should be good. Let's grab some tea. Okay. Okay. Okay, so right. Okay, let's come out of the containers. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Okay, so we're back on the host machine. What I would like to do is I would like to back up that database. So we're going to do docker exec. We're going to put in the container, which is, because we're not doing it through compose, we need to do docker ps-a, get the container name, which is this long string here. So it's docker exec hyphen, is it hyphen? No, it's just the container name. And then we're going to do, this is all dependent, of course, on whether or not we have MySQL dump. I don't know whether we do. Let's have a little look. -it. Let's go in as bash from Mo. MySQL, what do we have? Yes, we do have MySQL dump. That's wonderful. Wonderful news. Okay, so we're not up the river with no paddle. That's fine. Okay, so let's come out of this container. Goodbye, and then let's go. And we don't want to do this as bash. This is going to be an awfully long command. I do apologize. So this is now MySQL dump. And we're going to pass in the U, which is root, and we're going to pass in the password, which is password is equal to test. The database is test invoice underscore app. And we're going to stream that, stream that to be in, let me think, is it data? No, it's tests underscore data. And we want to just put in dump.sql. Okay, run that. Hopefully now if we did an ls of, let's not do an ls because that's just going to come off of the thing. We should actually, yeah, we now have that dump. So let's open that up. So that was a quick and dirty way of how to back up a database from MySQL. Okay, so what we've got here is all of these constraints. Dump was completed. It doesn't appear though to have. Do I not have any tables in this database? Have I just dumped a file? Let's go into. First of all, yeah, that was the right container. Let's dive into MySQL -u root -p test use test invoice app show tables. Whoopsie. No. Show tables. Thank you. It's empty. That's going nuts. So let's just back up an empty database, shall we? Okay, let's start this all again. Right, let's do source. Wow. Just wow. Source, and it was scripts. There we go, scripts. And we are running test rebuild.sql. Yes, so now can we show those tables? Yes, excellent. So now we can come out of this and we can come out of the container, and now we can run that, boom, and hopefully we have the dump of the database. Woohoo! Wonderful. Sweet. Okay, and we've also got the insert stuff in there too. Fine. Okay, no problem. No problem with that at all. So we're dropping table if exists, customer, creating that customer, and all that jazz. So basically, this is what I was doing in each one of these schemas, in sort of each one of these things. But I was doing it per thing. Okay, so we can remove that. Bye-bye. We can remove the test rebuild because we now have that dump file. We just need to be aware that whenever we make integral structural changes to the schema, we need to dump out that database too. And we can also pass in flags to the MySQL dump to not dump out the data as well. So if you just want to have a schema, then you can do so. Okay, so we need to change this, of course, to dump.sql. And then we need to, just to round this off, of course, is to actually run a test, because that's what we were trying to achieve in the first place. So let's have a look, shall we? Let's go to, I want to go to the web, don't I? That's what I want to do. So reverse search to web. And then from here, we should be able to, if I press up a bit, do that. And there we go. If we did a debug, what's going on? What's going on? Okay, so let's go through each one of these. So yeah, we can see that we are dumping that. Awesome. Awesome. I'm super chuffed with that. That's pretty cool. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that because we don't need that at all. Let's just run those again just for giggles. Okay, let's exit this. Let's now fiddle with the gits. So git status. I can't spell status. There we go. Okay, so that's what we've done. So if we did a git add of tests underscore data, all those things, do another git status, then we do a git commit -m. So adding test database, adding database test dump, and what else were we doing? Adding wonderful. Let's do a hub pull request -p insert. I'm going to just insert closes, and I think this or fixes. Does this which one is this? I think I said it was 42. Yeah, fixes hash 42. And then what we do is we escape, come out of Vim. There we go. Wonderful. Okay, so there we go. We can see that's fired through, and we should have a pull request waiting in the wings. And that's all good. We can now merge that in, and we can confirm that. Now we can delete the branch, and we can get on with the rest of our lives. that is that. We just review the commits, I suppose, just to make sure that they are what they say they are. I should have done this obviously before I did the merge, but yeah, that's all good. That's the dump SQL stuff. Cool. I just want to double check that in tests we have that coming in. That's good. Sweet. I'm really happy with that. And we seem to have a little bit of time. I thought that was going to take the whole stream, but it didn't. And I've run out of tea, which is annoying. Cool. So let's take a look at some other issues and see if we can look through some of these. So we have the managers, the other bits and pieces to do. Okay, I want to just talk briefly because I don't think there's any point in actually doing any more code as such in this stream because I don't think there's enough time. But I just want to talk about this thing here, the issue that Oliver Davies mentioned, using TellWind CSS. That, I think, is a good idea. I'm warming to TellWind. I've been using that recently, a fair bit recently, actually, and I'm warming to the idea of TellWind. I really am. It's a totally different way of CSS because you're approaching it in a different manner. You're doing it in a utility kind of in a way, and I quite like that. I quite like doing it like that. In fact, I used TellWind CSS when I was doing the GatsbyJS site, which I can just show you actually. This is the GatsbyJS site that I'm doing. Is it this tab? There we go. This is using TellWind CSS, and this is running on GatsbyJS. This is not live yet. I'm still playing around with the bits and pieces, but this site will host all of these streams as well as the course, which I will get to eventually. So the course will teach you object-oriented PHP. It's for FreeCodeCamp, and it's certainly coming soon. The things that it will be covering is the invoice website, PHP, MySQL, Docker. It's, the code is on GitHub, as you've seen. I'm coding it live on Twitch. And you can actually see the live coding episodes, each one on here eventually, obviously when I put it live. So we'll list all of the episodes. This is why I did a big push the other week to update all of the titles of the streams, because the titles were all the same apart from the number. So that is that. I've got 26, so I still have 27 to put on, and this one is 28. But I imagine that there's going to be quite a few of these things before we get to the point where I can actually look at doing the course. So yeah, going back to TellWind, this is using TellWind. I really do like it. I like TellWind. It's proving useful. I'm not a designer at all, but it's certainly something nice to just drop in and put through. So I will certainly announce this once it's live, and I will be pushing the streams to there too. Now I also need to talk a little bit about some of the upcoming stuff that I'm going to be doing as well, because I've been chatting away with some of the guys over at Pact Publishing. I can't give a lot away. I can't really give much away at all at this stage, but there's going to be some more courses that I'm working on. And I've been sort of working on them in the sense of we're coming up with ideas of courses, and we're coming up with timeframes and all of this stuff. But I think coming very soon, I will be actually physically building these courses. So I'll be talking about those more. I say courses plural because we are talking about more than one, and we're talking about more than one discipline, and it's not going to be PHP. So I'll be mentioning more about that as we go. So do follow me on Instagram and on Twitter. I do a lot of tweeting on How to Code Well, and Instagram How to Code Well too, and obviously on this stream as well. These streams will be pushed to YouTube a day or so after I do live streams. So yeah, that's coming up soon. I'm really chuffed. I'm really chuffed to be continue working with Pact Publishing on upcoming courses. Now, going back to this stream, eventually I'm going to be building this course, this FreeCodeCamp course about about object-oriented programming, and we're going to be talking about some of the fundamental topics. I'm going to be covering a lot of those things in that. So, encapsulation, polymorphism, visibility scopes, objects versus classes, that kind of thing. So it's going to be a very beginner-friendly course, but it's going to be done in the confines. I shouldn't say confines because that makes it sound like it's constricted. It's going to be done within this invoicing application. So you're going to come away with the knowledge of actually building an application via object-oriented programming. This is why I'm not using any libraries or frameworks in this course whatsoever, because this is the crux of it. I want people to go away with the knowledge of being able to build an object-oriented application, regardless of whether it's an invoicing application. It could be a CRM or a CMS or whatever. But we go through the stages of building, we've done the controller, we've done the view, we're doing the database at the moment, which I know isn't strictly part of the course, but it certainly does talk about the building of of the entities and how they are getting hydrated and how we're actually fetching data and building those classes. That is an extremely good way of defining what an object versus a class is, because a class obviously is the definition, whereas the object is the instance. So I'll be talking more about that in depth. And these streams and this website is sponsored by Hostinger. Sorry, Hostinger.com. And I'm very chuffed to be working with Hostinger. That they're a very awesome, reliable, and affordable hosting platform. At the moment, they have this amazing deal on. It's 82% off your web hosting, and you get a free domain name. And if you use the discount code Peter Fisher, you get a further 15% off, which is bonkers. So this website, this Gatsby site, once I have fiddled and finished with it to get it into a quote-unquote production-ready-esque type manner, this will be hosted on Hostinger. And I'm going to do a video all about how I do that, how I deploy that up. So yeah, do check out Hostinger. It's hostinger.com/Peter Fisher. I'll leave links in the show notes as well. And also do check out the podcast. That's podcast for the How to Code Well channel. That's howtocodewell.fm as well. So you can see these two, hostinger.com/Peter Fisher and howtocodewell.fm. So yeah, that is all good. I am super chuffed with the way this is running. This is rolling. I'm really, really glad that this course is at this point. Yes, it's taking a long time. Yes, we're on. I think we're on stream 28. But you know, I can see the end of the road here. This is, or the light. I shouldn't say the end of the road. The light at the end of the tunnel. You know, because once we get this database stuff done and nailed down, which I don't think is going to take very long. You know, it's probably going to take a week or so to just work through the mechanics of this stuff. We can then start looking at the interface, and we can start looking at the forms, and we can start building the forms to actually, you know, do all of that stuff to actually save invoices and create invoice items and so forth. So once we get the database stuff done, once I've got tests to back all that up, we can then build the forms, and then obviously we'll have tests to back up the forms. And then once that is complete, we should have the final product where you can select a customer, create an invoice, and add an invoice item. That's pretty much the remit of where I want this application to do. Once I've covered those things off, then I think that becomes that's quite good. And then I'll do the course. Now the course itself is over an hour and a half. It's going to be probably a lot longer than that because of all the topics that I want to cover. Because I want to also cover some design patterns, some object-oriented design patterns as well. And how I'm thinking of splitting that course up is doing it so we do like maybe an hour or half an hour for a section, and then that's it. I then save that as an exported video. I then do another bit on a completely different topic or part of the object-oriented stuff, but I'm going to do it as sort of segments. And then after I've done all of this, I will put all of those segments together in a single video with perhaps an image in between each segment. And then what I'm thinking of doing is once I give this over to FreeCodeCamp, I'm going to embed this in this site here. So if I go back to the homepage here, this will be under this part where it says in the meantime. That will obviously go in the coming soon. But we're going to have a video, embedded video here. And it's going to be in the similar format as this, as this one here. Like this, where we've got the right-hand side menu, and the right-hand side menu, I'm hoping I can create some time-coded links that go within this embedded video. I'm not sure if I can actually do that. I'm hoping I can. I don't know if I'm going to have to think of a way of trying to manipulate the embedded video somehow. I don't know. I'll have to look into that. But that's basically what I want to try and achieve try and do. So you would click on one of these things and it would skip you on to a certain point. So down here we would have, I don't know, the first one would be something like what is OOP, second one would be objects versus classes, third one would be polymorphism or whatever, however I structure the actual course, and you would click onto that and it would skip through the parts of the course. And then of course if you wanted to actually see how I put this together, you could go on and take a look at the actual live coding, which is what I'm doing here. So if I can pull this off and you're watching this stream through this website, send me a tweet at howtocodewell and just say it worked. I'll know what you're talking about. But anyway, I'm going to dash. I need to do some obviously I need to do some freelance work today. I've got an awful lot of stuff that I need to get on and do. A lot of refactoring recently, where architectural decisions have been made, and we've built sort of the scaffolding of an application, but we've come up with an issue that has altered the foundations of said application. A small part of foundations, but nonetheless the foundations. And so we're in the process of rolling out a refactor, and we're using Codeception, much like I've done here, which I was showing you earlier, to test our changes, because of course the application is huge and we want to make sure that we have a level of confidence that these refactors are actually in place. And I say refactors, these are both refactors and restructuring. Refactors really are the small micro refactors where you're changing the perhaps class names, or you're changing file names, or you're changing method names. But there is also a level of restructuring as well, where we're replacing and removing, deprecating and enhancing certain features too of a project that I'm working on, which I can't talk about at all, but that's just the way it goes. But that was just a little glimpse as to what I'm doing. So I'm going to be doing a similar thing as to what I've demonstrated here today, but in the real world. So yeah, that's me, and I will talk more about the packed publishing stuff when I'm allowed to. But anyway, happy coding. I hope you've all going to have an awesome day. It's super hot. It's like 34 degrees apparently going to be today here in Britain, which is a scary thought. So drink a lot of water. But happy coding, everyone. And I will speak to you again soon, same time tomorrow, 0730 BST, on stream on Twitch /howtocodewell. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.